Hi there, this is Adi from Adi Trinity Music, and in today's video I will be teaching you how to apply fingerboard tapes to your student violin or viola. What you'll need are, in addition to your instrument, a chromatic tuner and the fingerboard tapes. The brand I'll be using in this video are called Teacher's Choice. I picked these up from Southwest Strings, but there are a number of other tapes that will also work. The most important thing is to be sure that the brand you buy are ones that are intended to eventually be removed once the time comes. I'll put a link to these and my chromatic tuner and a couple of other brands I recommend down in the comments section for you to check those out if you don't have them yet. Now, the use of fingerboard tapes as a visual representation for the notes on the instrument is actually a controversial topic among many violin and viola teachers who believe that students who rely on the tapes end up developing a less refined ear for intonation. Much like training wheels on a bicycle, I don't recommend that my students keep tapes for longer than they absolutely need them, but for complete beginners, I find them to be a very helpful general guide for students who are simultaneously developing a sense of intonation, practicing the mechanics of playing the instrument, learning to read sheet music, learning rhythm, etc. But for now, let's get started. Now, the way that we're going to install these finger tapes is a pretty standard pattern, but in order to understand what notes will be represented by these, takes a little bit of explaining. And to do this, let's quickly take a look at a piano keyboard. On the piano, the white keys represent the natural notes, and the black keys represent the sharps and flats. However, on the violin, the visual distinction of the natural notes is a lot less obvious. So in this image, we have all of the natural notes on the violin, but you'll notice that it is not symmetrical across all four strings. So then we have a choice to make. Do we want to install the fingerboard tapes to represent all of the natural notes on the violin, or do we want to make it so that they are symmetrical across all four strings and represent a standard hand position? Despite its name, the natural notes are actually not more common than the sharps and flats. So the standard pattern is going to be the one that is symmetrical across all four strings and represents what I like to call the beginner scale. So next we are finally going to get started on applying those tapes to our instrument, but the first thing that we need to do to make sure that we're putting them on properly is we need to be absolutely positive that our instrument is already perfectly in tune. If you need to, take a moment right now, pause the video and tune your instrument. If you're unsure how to do this, I have a separate video about how to tune your violin or viola, and then we will get started on applying those finger tapes. So now we are ready to install our first finger tape on our violin or viola. In this case, I'll be using a violin as a reference, but as I go, I will also be explaining the differences between the violin and the viola. So let's start with our first finger note. What we want to do is to get our finger and push down on the G string, which is the lowest string for violin, or if you're on a viola, it'll be the C string, which is the lowest string for viola, and push down while looking at your chromatic tuner to get a note that should become the note A on violin or the note D on viola. So now I'm going to take a look at my chromatic tuner while I pluck this note and see if I can get this note to be perfectly in tune with my finger. So that is the location of an in tune A natural on the violin. So this is the location where we want to put the tapes. So now I'm going to grab my tape, while holding this exact location to make sure that the tape goes exactly there. The way that I do this is I come down from this area where the bridge is because it holds the strings a little bit higher. The tape is underneath the strings but on top of the fingerboard, and then we can just slide it up to the location that we've been holding down. I haven't been holding it down because I'm making this video so I can demonstrate to you guys, but try to hold that spot down at the same time so that you can find it again once you get the tape here. Okay, so now I have applied the tape underneath where my finger just was, but we are not done with the first finger tape yet because we also want to be sure that it is perfectly aligned so that all 4 strings are also in tune. What we want to do is to double check our work, take our first finger, push the string down at the point where it intersects with the tape, and then pluck the string. The note that we want to get in this case is called F sharp. So try that and look at the tuner while you pluck to make sure that we have a perfectly in tune F sharp. For viola, this note instead would be the note B. So for me, actually, my F sharp on the violin is a little bit higher, so I need to angle the tape in a way that my A natural is still in tune on the G string, or for violas, the D natural would still be in tune on the C string, but also my F sharp would be in tune on the E string, or for violas, the B natural would still be in tune on the A string. So I'm going to re-angle my tape to make sure that they are in tune across all 4 strings. And there we go. So now my first tape has been installed onto my violin so that when we put our finger on the tapes in each string, we end up with the correct notes and it is pretty in tune. So the next tape to put on is going to be our second finger tape. For the violin, this note on the E string should be a perfectly in tune G sharp. For viola, the second finger on the A string should be a perfectly in tune C sharp. While we're at it, we can also double check that once we go to apply the tape, we're also going to have a perfectly in tune second finger on the lowest string, which for violin is going to be the note B natural on the G string, or for viola, E natural on the C string. So now I'm going to get my next tape and apply it so that we have those 2 notes perfectly in tune where they intersect with the tape. Alright, so you can see that I have now installed my second finger tape the same exact way that we did with the first finger tape. Now the next tape is going to be our third finger tape. And this is where we start to talk a little bit about the hand position. So you'll notice that in between the first finger and the open string, this distance right here, we have a little bit of a gap. In between our first finger and our second finger, this distance right here, we have another little bit of a gap. But if you look on the image that I have right here, the distance between the second finger and the third finger is a lot more narrow. So these are the notes that we're going to watch out for once we apply our third finger tape. So now go ahead and apply your third finger tape, ensuring that you have an in tune highest note on your respective instrument and an in tune lowest note with the third finger on your instrument. Now that we have our first 3 fingerboard tapes installed, we have only one more left to do, and that is the 4th finger tape. You can check the G string note should be a D, or on the viola, the C string note should be a G. So now I'm going to go ahead and put that in as well. So now I have all 4 of my tapes. They should form this pattern here and will represent the notes in these pictures for the violin and the viola respectively. Now remember that these are used as references to make sure that you are close with your intonation, but it'll still take a good amount of practice to develop your ear to hear the really exact pitches as you include intonation in your violin studies or your viola practice. Another thing to watch out for is that there's a good chance these tapes might migrate a little bit over time. Sometimes the tapes might slide a little bit on the fingerboard, either a little bit flat or a little bit sharp, but that's normal. And if you need to, you can always just replace them if they start to fall off. So I hope you found this video helpful for learning how to install your own fingerboard tapes on your violin or viola. If you still have questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below in the comment section of this video. And if you're interested in learning more about the beginner scale and how it applies to real key signatures, such as A major, C major, etc., go check out my website because it is a big component of my teaching curriculum. And as always, if you found this video helpful, go check out some of my other videos and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one. Bye!